what are some nuggets you can share with us you've learned over the years in business that have allowed you to separate yourself in business and have the success you've had?
Dog Stella, she lived till 18 years old or 17 and a half years old. I give her a lot of credit for why I am where I am. And an hour into this conversation, he's like, bring me your paperwork. I'm not going anywhere. He's like, I like you a lot. And that was the moment where I was just like, if I'm just me and own it all unapologetically, I'm going to be all right.
All right, guys, I got a powerful episode for you today. I got a special guest here in the studio, Mr. Dan Fulkerson, who is the founder and owner of Bada Fulkerson Law Firm. But what's really cool, and I just want to say, is the first time I met you, Dan, I was at Eric's Rides for Hope charity event, where a friend of ours had rode a bicycle all the way across the country to your office.
Makes me tired just thinking about it.
Oh, my God. And it was an amazing charity event, and just what they were doing behind it. And that's when I first was exposed to you. Now I've seen like advertising and billboards and different things in the Bulldogs all around San Diego going, who is this Dan Fulkerson guy? But it was cool that the first exposure was just seeing your heart posture and how involved you are with our community and what you do. We were talking before out here, and you sit on the board of, I believe, like 6 different charities. You own multiple successful businesses, and we were even talking about where you're at in life and what you value. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man. And who is our guest with us today?
So Teddy is one of my 6 rescues. He comes everywhere with me. He's like part of my soul at this point in time. I rescued Teddy in 2020, and he was in a super bad condition and has stayed with me. And he literally comes everywhere with me. Everywhere I travel, he flies with me. He's part of me now.
So for those that don't live in San Diego and see the Bulldog associated with you, can you tell us a little bit of what made you fall in love with Bulldogs and what you're doing for them?
I mean, it's a funny story. When I was 21 years old at San Diego State, living like a college kid, stupid, partying way too much, one night after drinking, got online and bought a Bulldog online at like 3 a.m. And 3 days later, this dog shows up at the airport, and it changed my life because it was, oh shoot, I'm a 21-year-old kid, and now I have something that I have to be responsible for, and I have to show up every day, and I have to come home every night, and I have to take care of this dog, and it completely pivoted my life. And one of the reasons the dog is the mascot and the Bulldogs everywhere is I give that dog, the dog Stella, she lived till 18 years old or 17 and a half years old. I give her a lot of credit for why I am where I am. Like, I decided to go and do a study abroad program at Oxford. I ended up staying there and was invited back for another semester. That's what made me want to go to law school and do my master's in business. And that dog put my life on track. And so my legacy piece of Stella is the mascot everywhere and seeing her and the silhouette, and it's all built around her. And so even though she passed a couple years ago, she's still with me, and I think of her all the time because I get to see her every day.
Man, that's so powerful. And now you you do something with Bulldogs. Can you tell us more about that? Because I was talking about, like, you have like an adoption agency or something for them, don't you?
So I've worked with a lot of rescues, and, I think that anyone that's entrepreneurial, when you've worked with other businesses, other nonprofits, at a point when it's something you're really passionate about, you go, I want to do it myself. Like, I could do it differently, or there's a spinoff or a different way that I'd like to do it. And so a few years ago, I started my own rescue. It's called Save a Bully. We rescue French and English Bulldogs. It's one of my give backs to the world. I think that, yes, you're saving dogs, and it's amazing. You're saving absolutely fantastic dogs, but you're also creating such change in people's lives. Like, the ripple that it does and that it brings to someone's life is something that I've been able to watch and experience. And so we rescue dogs that are in really bad conditions. I get them all the medical attention that they need, and then I find great homes for them. I'm not asking for adoption fees. I don't care. It's not a money play. If anything, it's a money suck. And it's just my way of being able to give back to them, give back to people. And I met some of the most incredible people. Like, my trust and estates attorney rescued a French Bulldog from me, and now he's a friend and my trust and estates attorney. Like, it's made so many great connections in my life that it's a big part of what I do.
That's so cool, man. I love that. And it kind of ties beautifully into a conversation we were just having about when you do things that you're actually passionate about, how like that's the way to kind of design your life is around those things. And you were sharing some philosophy with that. And I would love to go farther down that rabbit hole. Now you are well known as an attorney. Yeah. So let's get just a little bit of backstory. And for those of you who don't know, Dan's very successful personal injury attorney, and he's built an amazing firm here in San Diego, California. How did you get there, and why be an attorney? Why go into personal injury?
I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest with you. Like, I was in between getting my law degree and getting my master's in business. Okay. And I didn't really have a whole lot of understanding of which was the better direction. I took the LSAT, I did well. Took the GMAT, I did well. I got a scholarship opportunity at Cal West. I got a scholarship opportunity at San Diego State. I decided to do them both at the same time because I didn't want to make a decision. It was an indecisive move that pushed me to do both of them. So I did my law during the day, and then I would get done at around 4 p.m., and I would drive up to San Diego State, and I would do a night program for my master's in business.
Wow.
And I did them both in 2.5 years. I think I'm the only person that's done both of those programs together at the same time in 2.5 years.
That's a hustle.
I didn't have a choice. Like, I didn't have a safety net. I was broke and ramen noodle diet and working as a valet driver at Stingery nightclub. You know Stingery? Mm-mm. It's before your days in San Diego.
Yeah.
Stingery was the spot, man, back in the day.
Where was it?
You know where the Omni is or Nova is now?
Yeah.
That was Sting.
Okay.
So they built that building for Stingery. And
wow.
This was when we had the Chargers. So it was like, you know, I was a valet. So I had a 350Z, and I'd have orange cones in the back of it, and I'd get there early and like grab street spots, and then I'd hustle by selling the street spots to the Chargers because they'd want like their nice cars up front. Yeah. So that's how I'd make my money. So I was there, I'd do my master's program, and then I'd go to work on Fridays and Saturday nights at Stingery till middle of the night, 3 a.m, and that's how I put myself through. And then when I got out, you know, the master's is probably as influential as the law degree in my life. That business background has given me such an advantage. And I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Just wasn't for me. They put me on a child pornography case, and I couldn't bring that home. Like it's not something that I could do every day. It was going to change who I was as a person. Like, it just made me look at people differently. Yeah. So I knew that wasn't a fit. Worked at a corporate law firm, all paperwork, no people. Not for me. Couldn't do it. And then worked at a personal injury firm, and it was interaction with people every single day that have had their lives turned upside down, and being able to meet new people every day, create new relationships, and really be able to hands-on help people through some of the toughest situations in their life. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I worked for a firm for a while, and same thing with the law firm, or same thing with the dog rescue. It was like, I didn't like how it was run. I didn't like, the business person in me was like, this is not how it should be done. Like, there was so many things that I'm just like, no,
you saw different gaps and things you would do differently.
Gaps and things, and just things that I didn't like. Right. And
yeah.
I don't like the reputation of personal injury attorneys. I don't like that when I say that, when I introduce myself as a personal injury attorney, part of me is like embarrassed by it because of how other people have run their practices and because it's been so money driven.
Yeah. So when you're saying that, that's what you're saying is a stipulation and a stigma kind of on it. They're just in it for the money.
Yeah. And I wanted to break that reputation. I wanted to build something that was special, that when people think of us, they don't think that. They go, they're different.
Yeah.
And that's how Dan Fulkerson was born.
Wow.
And we literally looked at everything and how other law offices were built and broke it all and then rebuilt it differently. And I mean everything, from how we compensate our attorneys to how we handle our attorneys' fees to how we market and try to not be solicitous and, hey, hope you're injured, call us today. Like, I don't want you to be injured. Like, I hope that there's a point in time where there's autonomous driving cars where I have to find something else to do for a living. That would be great. Yeah. It means less people are getting hurt. Great. Just literally everything from the ground up we rebuilt. And I think that's why we've had so much success. And that's why, you know, we're 7 years in, almost 8 years into this practice, and we're one of the biggest personal injury firms in Southern California. And people look at me and they're like, I've been doing this 20 years. How'd you build what you built? And it was just doing everything different and making sure that it was very intentional.
Yeah. You just hit something key there, doing everything different and being intentional. I have this belief system that we can create inevitability in our life with anything, if we have intentionality times consistency coupled with the right systems times accountability.
Yep.
It creates inevitable outcomes. You went into a space and didn't just say, I'm just going to do what everyone else is doing. You literally are like, no. I want to break everything and do it my own way. And now you're one of the biggest. Have you noticed a common theme among people that build great things like yourself that have that mindset to go in and kind of do it the way that they see as best, not the way that it's always been done?
Yeah. And a lot of it's people don't like facade. People don't like fake. People don't like that you feel like you need to fit into a box. I just owned who I was, and I built the practice around the things that I love, the bulldogs, and like this is how I dress every day.
Yeah.
You don't need to come in my office and I'm in like a stuffy suit with old books behind me. Like it's just not how I am. And so I'm not going to build my firm that way. And I realized early on that that's what people were looking for. Like I remember I had an older gentleman that came in and he had a bad head injury from a bicycle accident. And he came in and the first things out, he's probably a 75-year-old guy. And the first thing out of his mouth was, I'm not signing up with you. I have a friend that's an attorney. I know who the guy was. He told me his name. He's been doing it for 40 years. He's an older gentleman as well. He's like, I'm here because my son asked me to come meet with you. So out of respect, I'm here just to meet with you, but I'm not signing up with you. Cool. No big deal. We sat there and just kind of talked about life and everything but his situation for like an hour, right? And I'm dressed like this, and we just had a human conversation. And an hour into this conversation, he's like, bring me your paperwork. I'm not going anywhere. He's like, I like you a lot. And that was the moment where I was just like, if I'm just me and just truly who I am and own it all unapologetically, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
And that kind of changed everything for me.
That's so good. It goes into a philosophy I have on people by people.
For sure.
Not like we have products and services and businesses create that to solve problems in the world. But the differentiating factor and why someone's going to work with you from the other guy is truly they just want to work with you.
For sure.
And your team.
For sure.
And that so many people miss the mark on that. Like relational equity is what everything is built on in the world. When we do a transaction, there has to be a level of like and trust between us. Yes, you need to have the service. Like I was injured. I need an attorney to help me. I have no clue what I'm doing right now.
You can't outmarket shit.
Right.
Like there's truth to that.
And you got to be good at what you're doing, right?
Sure.
You got to be able to back up what you're doing and actually get results for people, or you're going to be a fraud sooner or later.
For sure.
But when you couple that with what you've done, and I love it, man. I love, younger guy like you going into that industry, disrupting it and saying, I don't want to wear a dusty suit every day.
Yep.
I love bulldogs and I'm going to theme my entire practice around it and I'm going to be me. And then explosive growth and success. I just wish more people, and I think it's starting to happen. I think the younger generation, I think we're thinking more like this. We have access to all this content and podcasts and YouTube and books and all these amazing seminars and events and masterminds and coaching programs. And I think that there's a challenging of the status quo going on in multiple industries right now.
I agree.
It's just really cool to see that, and you're passionate about it. Let's talk about the passion, because you've grown something successful and it's a lot of responsibility, but you love doing it. Can you talk about how passion plays a part of going the distance when it takes to building a business?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, consistency, right? Like you have to be willing to outwork people, and work ethic is something that I put a whole lot of value on. And I've always known that I would be successful because I will outwork you. But if you're doing something that you're not passionate about and you're working on something that you don't really want to put your life into, you will burn out, or you're just going to be miserable. When you're working on something that you love and that you intentionally build around the things that you love, you can work 7 days a week and it doesn't feel like work. Like when I was in law school and I was taking interviews, one of my questions that I would ask is, do I have to show up on Saturdays? Now I'm there every Saturday and Sunday because I love to be there, because I want to be there, not because I have to be there, but it's something that I'm truly passionate about and something that I love doing. And so that has allowed us to be very successful. And it also allows me to be happy, which is as important as success. Like, I think that is the way people should look at life is, hey, how can I chase happiness? How can I build my life around things that are going to make me happy? Not how can I make the most amount of money? Because you might make a lot of money, but you might be miserable. And how many people do both you and I know that are uber wealthy that are miserable?
Oh, yeah.
Because somewhere on that road, they sold their soul for money.
Yep.
And that is never a place that I want to be. I don't want to wake up when I'm 60 or 70 and go, look at all these ones and zeros on a screen and look at all this material stuff that I'm not taking with me. And that's what I got. And I don't have anything else. That is not a life. One shot at this thing. I'm trying to be fulfilled. I'm trying to be happy, and I'm trying to do stuff that I love. And that is how I live my life. That is how I build my businesses. That is how I decide which businesses I'm going into. That is how I decide which businesses I'm going to invest into, is based on that philosophy.
Did you always think that way?
No. When I was first practicing, I've always been able to bring in business. That's my value, right? Like in law, they call it a rainmaker. I don't like that term, whatever it is. Like I've always been able to bring in business. So I was successful very early in my legal career, whereas people that I went to law school with were struggling. I wasn't.
You could sell.
I've always been good at like just the people game. Like just, you know, that was something that it was always natural for me. So I was making, you know, $1 million plus year 2, right?
Yeah.
Like just because that was what I was good at. So I had all the toys in my 20s. I had 2 Ferraris before I was 30. Like I did all those things and I still wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled and I was not in a good place.
Y'all catching this right now?
There was a pivotal moment, and I've told this story on other podcasts, but I think it's worth saying again, is I had a unit in Little Italy in the Doma building, and I had 4 parking spots, like literally like Ferrari, Aston Martin, Bentley, Hellcat, like people looking outside in were like, you got it all. Like 29 years old, like you're living it, right? But I was hollow inside. And I'm walking up to my unit one day next to the trash can where people like put stuff that they like don't want anymore, but they don't want to throw away. So you like can go through it, right? There was a stack of books, and on the top of the stack was a book called And Then I Breathed, From a Life of Matter to a Life That Matters. And I don't grab stuff like this next to a trash can, but I grabbed that book and I went up to my unit and I read that book that night, and I read the entire book that night.
Wow.
And the book is about a young guy that was my age, 30 years old. And he was one of the head executive of Live Nation. So he was putting on all the concerts all around the country.
Yeah.
Crushing. Celebrity friends, entertainers, doing great. And then his mom died of cancer and his whole world crumbled. And he realized that he wasn't happy, he wasn't fulfilled, and all the things that he thought mattered did not matter. Wow. And he had to go find himself. And I got done reading that book and I had goosebumps, and every time I talk about it, I get them again. And I flipped to the front cover of the book and it was signed by the author, Hugs. And I'm like, this book found me. Like my life works off energy. Like I'm a big believer in like energy and being able to like manifest your life and the things that you want. And I knew in that moment, I'm like, this book found me right now for a reason.
Wow.
And that's when I made a switch. And that's when one of the big parts of starting Bada Fulkerson was in that moment of I can't keep going down this road.
Wow.
And the material stuff, I'm glad I got that out of my system young, right? Like that's a blessing. It's a blessing that I was in the position to be able to do it, but it's a bigger blessing to know how little value that adds to your life. Yeah. So many people chase that their entire lives, right? Like, oh, I'm going to get to 50 years old and I'm going to be able to buy this car that I've wanted my whole life. I have a lot of pity and empathy and sympathy for people like that, because I'm like, you're chasing the wrong things and you're going to buy that car and you're going to realize it's going to spike your happiness for 5-6 weeks. And then you're going to be right back to where you were. And you're not going to be happy based on material stuff. Like that is not going to ever fulfill your soul. And I'm very, very lucky that I figured that out at a young age.
And since then, what have you found does fill your soul?
Bulldogs. Like I love dogs. I love being able to.
He looks just. He's just chilling, bro. Just Superman posed on your arm right now.
Teddy like lives the life, man. I love doing the community work that we do. Like that is life perspective. Some of the organizations that I sit on the board for, Active Valor, we help Gold Star kids. Usually they lost a father in either combat or to suicide. You know, working with those kids, matching them with veteran mentors, like seeing what those kids and those families have gone through. I sit on the board of it's called Friends of Scott, and it's kids with terminal cancer that usually are treating at Rady's, and they're not going to make it to their own prom. So we put on a prom for them every single year. Wow. And a lot of us live our lives worrying about dumb stuff and, oh shit, I got a parking ticket or whatever it is, right? And like, you're just like, let dumb stuff get to you. And if you've talked to parents that have a 14-year-old that they know isn't going to make it to 18, you realize that your problems don't really mean what you think that they do. And we should all be very grateful for every single day that we have here. And we should all live like that. You know, and I think that kind of perspective has changed my life, puts a lot of happiness in my life, because I can, when I have something that happens that tweaks me, I can reestablish and readjust. And so those are the kind of things that I like building my life around. And then people, like I've built my firm with all the people that I really want to like spend time with and I want to be around. My law partner is one of my best friends in the world. Like the only fight we've ever had in 8 years is how many dogs I'm allowed to bring to the office. That's the fight. Like that was the fight. He was like 4. I'm like 4. I have 6. Like I'm not picking. Like, so being able to
who won that? What was the final?
Oh, I won.
verdict?
It's the Bulldog building. Yeah, like, and I mean, in sense, it's funny. Like he's conceited, because people now, you talk about like how weird it is that people want to just buy you, right? They want to do business with you. The weirder part is people that show up and they're like, well, we're here for the dogs. And I'm like, oh, it's not because we're damn good at what we do and we get great results. No, you just came for the dogs. Like,
if I got to talk to an attorney, I want just to hold and pet a bulldog in the process.
I mean, it happens every week. People are just like, oh yeah, we came to you because of the dogs. I'm like, okay. So he's since conceded and realized they're well worth it. And, you know, even they're a little distracting for the employees. They add way more than they take away. But yeah, I mean, just being able to live a life where every day I can be proud of what I'm doing and it's not money driven. And I'm very grateful that I make a great living and that I'm fortunate, but that is not what drives me. It's not the money. It's the intent of how I'm building my life.
That's so good, man. And now I know you're also going through a change in your life where family is becoming so much more important to you. You know, growing up in your 20s, making millions of dollars, having all the cars, having all the things, reading that book, having that revelation about what actually matters. And it's crazy because, man, who was that? There was an actor recently who had talked about, I think it was, what's his name? He's a comedian, but he talked about like, I wish everyone would get everything they want and make millions of dollars in the world, because then they truly understand that like it really doesn't matter.
100% truth to that. Yeah.
And so talk to us a little bit about family though, man. Kind of what is the journey been like with you and family and kind of growing that part of your life? I'm career focused like you. Yeah. So like I understand, I grew up, my dad was in prison, raised by a single mom. I had a hard childhood. I became very driven at a young age, and very much I've been on mission. But then in the process of being on mission, I used to say to people, my biggest dream in life is to be the dad I never had.
Yep.
And then one day a mentor said, well, what are you actually doing in your life to make that dream come true?
Yep.
And it really hit me like a rocket ship, dude. I'm like, wow, every action in my life is self-serving. There's nothing I'm doing to build a family. That has changed. But for you, did you have to go through your own journey of that and prioritizing family? Where are you at with that? Fill us in. Give us the goods.
I was always the person that was like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. Like,
wow.
Ever. Like it was a non-starter for me.
What did that stem from?
I was worried that I wouldn't be a good dad. And I think part of that was just like how my childhood was, right? And then I thought that, and I'm not trying to like talk shit about my dad, because like I think he did the best that he could, but I didn't want to be a selfish dad. You know, like I thought I would be. I thought I'd be the dad that wasn't there, that was just working all the time, because that's what I had in my mind, right? Yeah. And I didn't want to do that to anyone. And for a long time, that was my MO. Never getting married, never having kids. Dogs are my kids. That's what I want. Not going to even talk about it. It's non-negotiable. And then something happened in like 2021, where I started having dreams about it. And I started having dreams about waking up at 70 and what do I really have? What's legacy, right? Cool, I got a cool Bulldog building and I built an awesome law firm, but is that really legacy? Is that really what life is about? And I started having dreams about having kids, and I realized, shit, like this is something that I want in my life. Yeah. And had to make some pretty big changes, and that was tough because I was very one way my whole life. But I realized that in order to be able to be the dad that I want to be and to be the husband that I want to be, that I needed to make those changes. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, where pivoted my life and my goals and my intention away from, okay, the most important thing in my life is building this business and building this portfolio, to how can I set myself up where I can be the best husband that I can be, and I could be the best dad that I could be. And a lot of that's systems and processes and building that into the business and delegation and hiring more people. And yes, it might mean that I'm making less money, but at the end of the day, I know that that's the move in my life. And I'm just glad that I had that realization before it was too late, because I think a lot of people have that realization too late. And I watched an interview that stuck with me for whatever reason. I guess certain things just catch you when they're supposed to. I watched an interview with David Letterman, and he was talking about how, I don't know the exact ages, so I'm going to bullshit around it a little bit, but he was talking about how he had his first kid when he was like 59. And he was like, I would give back all the money that I've ever made. I would give back all the success just to have like an extra 2 years, because it's been the happiest that I've ever been in my life. And that stuck with me, because I'm like, here's a guy that's sitting on top of the world, has everything, right? And he would give it all away just to have more time with his kid, because that was something that really got me.
That's powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that. It's cool that we get the opportunity to have you in the studio today with where you're at in life. Whenever I meet somebody, and I don't always share this on the show, but I'm just actually looking at your heart posture. Like anytime I meet a human being, I don't really care how much money you've made, what you've done. Like that's cool stuff, but like where's your heart at?
Agreed.
And it's cool to see where your heart's at in this season of your life and what you're doing, man. And I'm excited for you, dude. I'm excited for the coming years. They're going to be really good years.
I'm as happy as I've ever been in my life. And that's a great place to be, right?
Yeah.
Like I know that, and that's how I know I'm on the right path, right? Like is because I that energy, I can feel it. And I know that I know that I've made these moves for a reason. And there's been some tough conversations that have had to be had as a result, but I'm as happy as I've ever been, and people around me see it. And you know, like I have people reach out to me all the time, and they're like, I've never seen you like this. And it's because I know I'm in the right place. And so I really am. I'm really excited about what's to come. I'm really excited about being a dad, and God willing, like that will be in the future. But you know, it's like, I'm just glad I woke up to it, man. Like I would have been really, really upset if I had this realization when I was 60.
Yeah. So like with all of that we just talked about, if you could, and people say this all the time, but let's say you could get in a time capsule, right? Like we had one right here. You could walk into it. You could walk out of this studio and you could go find yourself. Let's say 19 years old. Yeah. So we're going back in time a couple decades, and you get to walk up to yourself at 19. What advice would you give to young Dan Fulkerson at 19 years old?
It's a weird question, and it's weird that I've thought about that before. I wouldn't change shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change shit, because what I've gone through
made you who you are.
Those phases are why I'm right now saying I'm as happy as I've ever been.
Yeah.
So like I can't say that there's anything that I would go and tweak or twist, right? Like the mistakes, the fails, like, you know, we were talking about, you know, the Jeff Fenster experience. Like, you know, I passed up on being one of the first investors in Everbull. Like that was a slap in my face on a business level, but it taught me so much. And so I can't, and that's an honest answer. I cannot say that there's much that I would change in my life. The hard parts of life are what develop your character and what make you who you are. Yeah. And I'm glad that I went through the shit. Like I'm glad that I had those 2.5 years of grind in law school and MBA where I had ulcers because I wasn't sleeping, and it was like that made me who I am. And I wouldn't change much.
Yeah.
I really
so
wouldn't.
let's flip it. Let's say we can get in that same capsule, but we can go 20 years into the future now.
Okay.
What question would you ask older, more mature, 20 years down the road from now, if you could ask him just one question?
Did you live the life that fulfilled your soul the way that you know that you were supposed to? And did you make the decisions in your life that were built around, did you make the decisions in your life that put you in the place that you could be the happiest that you could be, but also that you could be the best human and the best dad and the best husband that you could be? Wow. And I think if I can keep on that track that whenever my day comes and whenever I'm sitting on my deathbed and I'm looking back on it, I'm not going to be writing that Steve Jobs letter. And I read that letter once a year. I'm sure you've read it as well. Yeah. And it messes with my life. Wow. And it messes with my mind every time I read it, because it's hard to think of someone who's influenced us more than that man, right? Like, oh my God. We all got an iPhone. We're all like, our lives are kind of revolving around it. He's a very impactful person. And on his deathbed, none of that stuff mattered. Yeah. He just wanted more time with his family. He just wanted more realization of how important your health is. And when you pass, I don't think about Steve Jobs every day, even as influential as he is, even with my iPhone and life moves on from all of us.
Right.
We all think we're the center of the universe. We're not. Life moves on. So while you're here, do things that are going to serve your soul. So you don't ever have that deathbed regret of, I spent my time on all the wrong things.
Yeah. That's so good, man. I love that. And just going in, did you do the thing that really brought you fulfillment in your life? Did you get where you thought you could go? And I think it's so important for people to hear this. As amazing as all this is, I love content, man. Yeah. I love the world we live in. I love technology. I love human evolution. But there's also a programming going on into our mind right now where we're chasing all of the wrong things. Many of us are.
1,000%.
Life used to be simple.
I'll tell you my belief in it. We're watching an erosion of society, right? And I do a ton of reading. I'm a history buff. We're watching an erosion of our society. And I honestly think if you could say there's one thing that's contributed to it, it's that we've taken God out of society.
I agree 100%.
People need that in their life. There is that stability. Some people can live and know right from wrong and live a good life, but as a mass and as a society, when you take God out of it, you find yourself where we're at right now, where like you go on Instagram and it's everyone's ass and like it's like that, like that's what you want to put forward. Like that's the way you're living. Like it's a shallow existence, right? And you're chasing the wrong things. And that's why depression is at an all-time high. And that's why child suicide is at an all-time high. And that's why we have all the conflict and all the friction and all the stuff, because it's not like how it was when you and I grew up. People aren't going to church every Sunday. People aren't living their life based on certain moral and ethical codes. And as a result of that, here we are. And I don't know how that pendulum swings back, but it worries me that if it doesn't, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And there's been studies around this too, that, having religion, it creates an ethic and moral code within us, right? And so for me, like, I'm pretty strong in my faith. You saw that I prayed before the podcast episode, and there's something we call the fear of the Lord, right? Like, I don't have fear of man. Like, truly, I've gotten to a place in my life where my job is not to please you or to be afraid of the human beings of this world. The only one I have to answer to is I play, as Steve Weatherford would say, for a one-man show. And when you have the fear of the Lord is, God, I'm so afraid of letting sin create a separation from you because I just want to be in relationship with you. So naturally, despite what goes on social media, this, that, the world's laws, even our government, I have this moral code that I live my life by that's like, I don't want to be apart from my Father because I know what that's like. I grew up with my dad in prison. I sold drugs. I ran the streets. I made the mistakes. I've looked for things in the world and I didn't find it and I was empty. And it wasn't until I came home and I developed a relationship with Jesus Christ that I found that for me, that's my journey.
For sure.
And it's like, I agree 100%. And then you get on social media and the programming in your brain. I have a belief system that what you input into your mind will create the belief systems that you have, will determine the habits that you live your life by, which create the actions that you take, which determine your results.
1,000%.
And it's like, so what we consume every day.
In the words you speak.
100%.
Be careful about the words you speak.
Which come from the thoughts you think.
1,000%.
So we're looking at this all day, you're right? Like girls on Instagram, bikinis all day. You're getting programmed on that. It's messing men up. It's perverting our mind. It's perverting women that all they need to do is have the perfect body. So many different things. We could go down that rabbit hole. How have you created your own values in your own life to protect you from that stuff?
I think a lot of it is being conscious of it and being aware of it and not falling victim to it, right? Like one of the reasons why I'm with the person that I'm with and that she'll be my future wife is you go on her Instagram and it's all of the pure things in life, right?
Yeah.
Like her kids, like the things that she loves. It's not her ass and her body and like, you know what I mean? Like that is an immediate turnoff to me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys like that. Like they're like, I'm like, I have no interest in that. Like it's just not for me, because to me that speaks to your character. And that's not a character that I'm looking for. And so just being conscious of it. But the sad part is kids that have grown up in it, it's all they know.
Yeah.
It's all they know. They don't know.
I really fear for this next generation.
Same.
Dude, because you and I, like you're 10 years older than me, but even like that came about when I was like 13 is when all that started. But I had programming as a kid to get to experience like, and it wasn't even where it's at now. Yeah. You know what I mean? But now the kids now coming up, like that's all they know.
100%. It's all they've ever known.
Yeah.
So how do you switch that? How do you turn that switch? I don't know. And that is what really, really concerns me. And that's why like my ideal, and it's not something that I can make happen right now, but I'm like, if I had it my way, I'd have kids, I'd have my wife, I'd have a ranch, I'd have property, and this is where we'd be living. I'd kind of exit out of the matrix, if you will. Yeah. This is where we're
at. You did get some land.
I got some land. That's my exit point. I'm still, my law firm's here, but I am making moves.
Hey, well, just technology, you'll be able to hologram in there in a 100%. Few months probably.
And I opened up a law firm in Boise, Idaho for the reason, like if stuff gets too crazy, like Boise's still normal,
And all my friends are going to Boise right now.
Bro, Boise's amazing. It's still built around the right type of things. It's still built around community. It's still built around morals and ethics. It's still a place that you don't have to worry about locking your doors at night because there's not crime, because neighbors take care of neighbors and people take care of people, but there's still God there. Like that's a big difference, right? And so I don't know where it goes. And all I know is that we can all try to help be the change and try to help wake people up to it. And that's all I know how to do, is just give my opinions and try to help point people in the right direction and try to be there and live as an example of how I think that life should be lived, and hopefully that spreads. And I think the rest is...
You hit it on the head though with live as an example. You can't judge other people. Words clear on that, but you can live your life in a way that inspires others to elevate their belief systems and the life that they live. Yeah. And I think if more people would just be courageous enough and bold enough to live the life that they're worthy of living, they would inspire others around them to live a higher standard of their own life.
I agree. It spreads.
Yeah, it's contagious.
100%.
And as you begin that journey, you begin to attract people that are like you, and only surround yourself. Like for me, you're not in this room by coincidence, right? Even though we don't have a great relationship, the connection to you, there was trust there. There was, there are only going to be people in this room that are elevating belief systems by the way that they're living their life. And what's really cool, what I found God has blessed me with, is he's continuously put me in rooms with guys like you since I grew and became that man in my own life.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is you say that we met today.
Yeah.
Like this is our first
time. Yeah. We had that charity thing, but it was like just like a bunch of people.
But when we sat down together, it's like, oh, you know him and you know him and you know him, because there's 6 degrees of separation between good people in San Diego. And it's one of the biggest cities in the country, but it's also one of the smallest cities in the country in a lot of ways. Because if you're a good human, you know other good humans. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, dude. And I've only been here 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's just by the way that I live my life, the people that God has connected me into my life. So that's really cool. I want to shift it just for time's sake. There is some other things I would love to dive into. And if you feel God put anything on your heart you want to share, by all means, share it with us. But you've done a good job, man. By 39 years old, you've systematized your life and scaled, and you've gotten to a place just a lot of people that listen to this want to be. And I think we've hit pretty hard on the heart of guys, don't chase money. Like, not that you shouldn't prosper, not that you can't prosper, not that you can't be highly successful, but if that is the reason you're doing it, you will grow weary in the process and you'll find yourself empty. So I think we've hit that pretty well. But on the strategy side, the tactics side, the systems, the processes, what are some nuggets you can share with us you've learned over the years in business that have allowed you to separate yourself in business and have the success you've had?
So something that was hard for me, and I think it was ego, was you cannot be your business, right? You need to have and build what I call an alien abduction manual. If I were to get picked up as I walk out of the studio by aliens, my business could go on and work without me, right? And that is systems and processes. Do you have a flow chart for every single part of your business and for every single employee in your business or task in your business? You know, and if you have that, guess what? Scaling becomes a whole lot easier because you can plug and play. Oh, you have someone leave? No problem. You hire someone new? Here's your flow chart. Here's your videos to watch. Here's your job. You're going to have a couple questions, but I'm not going to have to train you,
right?
Because it's already built out. That's how we've been able to grow from 2 of us to 30 of us. That's how we're able to have 10 attorneys. That's where we're able to have offices in 2 different states, is those systems and processes. Most people, it's boring and terrible. And when I started, I agree. That was not a fun part of the business, but it's given us freedom. And it's given us the ability to be able to scale and grow. And I guess that's like part of the work ethic, right?
Where'd you learn how to build those systems?
A guy named Jason Cisneros. He's a good friend of mine. He's a business coach. He harped on me he was a friend of mine for way before I brought him into the business to help with consulting. And he would always tell me, you need me. And I'm like, I don't need you. I don't need you. I'm good, bro. Like I'm crushing. We're good.
Yeah.
It was ego.
Yeah.
And then he came in and I was like, oh shit.
I need you.
Like, you're right, man. And it's funny. He came in 2019, right before COVID, and the world shuts down. And I've always thought I was in a recession-proof business. Like, the world gets crazier. More people, unfortunately, get in accidents, and there's more chaos. Well, that changed when you walk out of your door and there's not a car on the road, right? And I'm like, oh, this is new. Thank God I brought Jason in a year before. Like, I was ready. Like, we'd had all the systems in place. We were able to go remote and then back to in person. We were able to have enough money saved up in reserves where we didn't have to make desperate decisions on the business. And so, you know, Jason was put in my life when he was for a reason. I'll always be grateful to Jason. And I think a lot of business owners like me are like, I'm not spending that kind of money to bring someone in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to hire a coach. Like, I don't need to spend 20 grand on you. That's a bad investment. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Like those kind of money spends are what take you to the next level.
It's actually one of the best investments you can make. Bringing someone in that has an expertise you don't have, can see blind spots you can't see.
It's just, it takes doing it to understand that, right? And you have to be able to have some faith to do that for the first time. And that it was a game changer for us. And so that's, you know, we've been able to take that knowledge and continue to build and continue to grow. And I also am very aware now, like, it's constant evolution. Like, we have weekly meetings with managers, with staff, with it, because it's like, it's a constant growth effort, right? Like, it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But we have to constantly try to make it better. And you can't have the ego to say, oh, I'm just doing it right. No, like, that's a failure point. So that's been a big part of it. Hiring the right people.
Yeah.
Big part of it. Being able to spread wealth, share wealth, and not being greedy, not going, oh, well, I could keep this for me. No, like, I want my attorneys to be able to go out and make tons of money and be able to do all of the things that they'd like to do in their life, buy houses, have families. Like, when people were in my office past 5:30, I'm like, get out of here. This isn't your life.
Yeah.
You don't work to live, like, or you don't live to work. You work to live. Like, go. So making sure that those are the kind of things that are built into the business have allowed us to be successful. That's why we don't lose people. Why are you going to leave? Like, you're well compensated, you're well respected, you're taken care of. We don't have high turnover, and that's allowed us to grow the way we have, and it's allowed us to get the great results that we have for our clients. And so just things like that. And it's one of those that's also the fulfillment part. Like, I get to work with some of the most amazing people that I've ever met, and some of the most talented people that are way more talented than me at a lot of things, which is why we've had this success we've had.
That's so good. There's a couple nuggets I took out of that. For one, systems, right? I mean, systems they scale, man, and your business will rise and fall to the level of your systems. And very much like you, like, I'm a charismatic, visionary type leader. The people side of the business is my strong suit as well. The system side was like the ugly, you know, I never wanted to deal with. And for me, I've been very much in the coaching world, and I've even coached and all that, and I've built multiple businesses, and I've invested in myself for a while. So I knew that was a thing. My turning point was I had a friend, he wasn't like super big in building like his business, but he's like, dude, systems are like my favorite thing, and you have terrible systems. Just like come sit down with me in Arizona and let's map your systems out. So I drove, like I just left San Diego. I drove to Arizona. We literally drank bangs for like 2 days. We like the giant sticky notes, the entire room, mapped out every flow, every system in my business. I paid him a couple $1,000s at the time. He was my homie, and my business completely changed.
100%.
And within 4 weeks, my business was running without me. And I was like, whoa, like I don't have to, and I was trying to get in, and my employees were like, stop, don't touch that. They're like, we got this. And it was a really weird, and it freed me up to go focus on other things and solve other problems, because there's always problems. So number one, I want to pull out for the audience, great businesses have great systems. But then the second thing was, Jason, guys, we don't know it all. Pride and ego is usually the business owner is the number one bottleneck in the company.
Always.
They always say your business will grow to the level that you're willing to grow yourself. So for you brought in somebody who sounds like eats, sleeps, and breathes that and is very good at that. Subject matter expert to come in, and that took your business to a new level, correct?
100%. 100%. And you got to sacrifice the money and have faith that it's worth it.
Yeah. And even now, I've made good investments. I made bad investments. I don't know about you into people like that. There are some investments I've made that I still don't regret, but I didn't get the results I wanted.
For sure.
But I still learned from it.
For sure.
And I think that that's something I just really want the audience to pull from this. Like the little things that people often overlook in these podcast episodes that make such a big shift inside of where we end up in our life, our businesses, our finances.
Bro, I've had friends that have had struggling businesses, and I'm like, let me introduce you to Jason, right? Like, bring him on. And then they call me and they're like, he wants me to pay him 20 grand for 4 days. I'm like, pay him the money. Like, I can't do it. Their businesses have failed. And I've talked to him afterwards. I'm like, I told you. Like, I tried to feed this to you. I have no interest in it other than trying to help you. It's not like he's kicking me back money. Like, I've tried to help you, but you were so worried about that 20 grand that you let your business fail. You let multiple $100,000, 6-figure business fail because you were worried about paying the 20 grand. You can't get out of your own way.
That's so good. And the third thing, the power of people. You know, I'm trying to remember, it's Jim, is it Collins that wrote Good to Great? Have you read that book?
I just ordered like 6 copies. I give out books. I have like a library stash at my office. And when people come in, I like try to find a book that like is fitting to like why they're in my office.
Yeah.
And I just ordered like last night 6 copies.
And his 3 things were like getting the right people on the bus, something you're passionate about, I believe, and what drives the economic engine. Those are the 3. And it's like, you've hit that pretty well today, man. You do what you're passionate about. You've clearly got the right people on the bus, and it clearly drives the economic engine.
For sure.
That's the 3 things. I mean, do you feel anyone in any industry, if they take that model, can go be successful?
Yes. I 100% do. And I think that there's also a work ethic component to it, right? Like, it's not going to do itself. Like, it's consistency of showing up every day. You and I talked about that before we even started this. It's the consistency of, I'm going to do this every single day, and I'm going to show up. So it's not going to just do itself. But those 3 things can help you grow a successful business in any industry that you're in. And I own 5 other businesses, and they're different. They're not law firms. They're different businesses. But if they're built around the same thing, they're going to be successful. Yeah.
Did you because I mean, I know you're in the food industry, you have a restaurant, you also have a cold brew company, you know, real estate, definitely diverse portfolio you have. For the food industry, how are you able to enter industries like that? Did you have to find an operator partner and just build systems, and then you're kind of hands off?
Absolutely. I don't have time in my life to dilute myself. My bread and butter is being a lawyer. That's what I love to do, and that's what I'm passionate about. So you find good people that can help you run these other businesses, and you help in the places that you can give influences. Systems and processes was one of those places for me, making sure that I stress that, making sure that that is something that is there in the business. Leadership, connections, connecting the dots with, you know, where there's opportunities. That's been something that I can always bring to the table in any single business. But realizing that I can't hold the entire pie. Like, I'm going to have to divvy it up and go, hey, this is what you're going to get. This is your equity for you being able to be here every single day to run and operate the business, because I can't. And it's been successful. I mean, you can't be greedy.
Yeah. Now in the law firm, man, you were a hustling attorney, and I know you're still super passionate and put a lot of work, but you're going through an interesting stage in business, and it kind of sounds like you're kind of in that right now where it's easy when you get people on the bus and you're the hardest working guy in the business to drive them to work harder. But you're also going into this phase where you're like, hey, I want more time with my family. Yep. I'm trying to have you had difficulty in the transition from being like the number one hustler in the company to like, I'm going to be more of an owner and start phasing myself out? Has that been hard at all?
I feel guilt over it.
Yeah.
I feel guilt over it. Yeah. I've always wanted to be I'm here first and I'm out last. But I've also realized that I put in the time. I built this place, right? I put in the 15 plus years of blood, sweat, and tears into it, right? And I still hold the risk. I still hold that liability. I still am the one that's having to sign the checks, and I'm still the one that's floating millions of dollars on cases to make sure that they're successful. And most people do not want to have to be in that position. Like that stress will eat you alive if you're not built for it. And not everyone's meant to be an owner and operator. Right. A lot of people are better as being employees and can make a great living being an employee. And so I've come to terms with it, but there is guilt.
And you're walking through that right now?
Walking through it right now.
Yeah.
But it's part of the sacrifice.
It is, man. Yeah, it's so good, dude. You know, I have a business partner in one of my businesses, and we're really good friends, and we were having dinner one night in La Papa de Gallo down in Lucadia. Yep. And I looked at him and I said, you know, let me ask you something. Do you have to be the owner, you know, of the thing that you really want to do? Like, do you have to be the one like that started it, that owns 100% of it? Like, is that something you really care about? And he sat there for like 3 minutes and he's like, you know, I don't. Yeah. He's like, I've just been in this entrepreneur world where everyone's like selling me I have to be that. Yep. He's like, what I really want to do is I want to be a part of that, but I don't want to be the one that has to have it all on me. Yep. Became my business partner.
It makes total sense.
I founded it. I started it. I own majority equity in it. He has minority equity in it. I take all the risk. Yeah. And he's so happy. Yep. And it's like finding people like that. But we live in this world, especially podcasts like this, where everybody's like, I have to be an entrepreneur. I have to be a founder. I have to start up. I have to make millions. And it's like, maybe just know what you're signing up for.
100%.
I mean, dude, I'm not even as far in the journey as you, but I've done some cool things. And there's days I wake up and I'm like, is it worth it?
1,000%.
I could go get a job. 1,000%. I could go make hundreds of thousands, maybe even 7 figures, just being a good employee, not carry any of this weight. But I actually love it.
I was going to say, it's not how we're built.
No, I could. And I've thought about that. And I'm like, for me, I love that struggle. It's every day.
There's certain types of people, and it's being self-aware enough to understand which type of person you are. And it's also it goes back to what we were talking about, building your life around happiness, chasing happiness, making sure that you are self-analyzing your life to put yourself in a position where you are going to be happy. Don't be a business owner if it's going to make you miserable. Yeah. Like those kind of things. And the thing that I would piggyback on that is I've seen a lot of people create businesses and they're so worried about holding 100% equity. Yeah. It's way better to own 10% of a $100 million company than 100% of a company that's worth shit. Yeah. So like, just understand that you need to be able to bring in people and surround yourself with a team to be successful. Most of the huge businesses and the huge exits that I've seen, the owner and the person who started it don't hold as much equity as you would think, but they're exiting for a ton of money because they've given up equity to the right people to be able to get to that finish line.
Yeah. And it's at the higher level, I'm learning that more, the power of collaboration, strategic partners, 100%. Joint ventures. It's like, there's this saying, and one of my mentors always would tell me, Cody, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yep. And it's like, the farther you go up in business, the more money you make, the more rooms you get in with people that have the same mindset, that are actually doing it, not just talking about it, the more you realize how powerful collaboration is. Yep. Most guys at that level don't want 100% of it. No. They're like, hey, I have this great idea and I want to bring together the team of people that are great in their lane with it so we can build this thing. Maybe the strategy is an exit in 5 years. We're all going to exit with millions of dollars. Maybe they make the biggest payout, but it's like it was their idea, but they give a lot of that up to bring the team together to fulfill on the vision.
1,000%.
That's so good, dude.
1,000%.
All right, we're coming to a close here. Anything else on your heart, man, that you just, we built a decent audience here that you feel like you could impart into us today that would make an impact in our life?
I mean, first, I really do appreciate you having me on. I appreciate how you have built this podcast and the things you've built it around. Like, right? It's not a selfish ego stroke for you. You're trying to impart knowledge and wisdom on other people. And I think that that's a really important part of life. And so I applaud you for that. And I'm humbled that you would even want to have me as a guest. So thank you for that. I mean that. I'm here. I'm an open book. Reach out to me. I'm easy to find. I have the big Bulldog building off the 5 freeway. You can't miss it. I got a big 8-foot tall light up LED Bulldog on the roof, like a Bulldog bat symbol. Like, I'm easy to find. So if you need me, reach out to me. Come by my office. I'll hook you up with a book. I'm always happy to try to help. I would reiterate the chase your passion over money. I see so many people that is their downfall of life, where they're chasing money and not what's going to make them happy. And always try to be self-analytical about it. Like, what's going to make you happy is different than what's going to make you happy or me happy.
Yeah.
And you really have to spend time to get to know yourself to really understand that. And so I just hope that more people do that. I think we'll live in a better world if more people do that, because if you're happy, you're spreading happiness. Miserable people try to spread misery, and happy people try to help other people and try to lift other people up. And we need that tide to keep pulling us up.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That was so good. And I think that's a good, powerful place to end on. I just want to end by honoring you, man. You're a busy guy. Thank you so much for giving us your time today, for giving us your wisdom today. And I'm standing in agreement and believing that lives will be made better because you showed up today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Boom.